I was going through it in my head, like, shit, man, there's a lot of stuff right here where I'm like, what am I really stoked on? And I just couldn't think of anything.
You're alone again. I shouldn't be thinking of you, thinking of me. I know.
Greetings, y'all. This is Mike, and this is the Daily Bread podcast, where I sit on my couch and I talk to a room full of nobody about my life and try to figure things out. And people seem to listen to this, and I feel like some people who are new to this might be like, "What's the connection between this and some random comic that led me here, or web comic, I mean?" And I guess the web comic started as just my thoughts, and I just created a little character that it kind of represents me. Actually, technically, if there's the little details in the character. If you've never known this, is there's always a little V on the shirt because I used to wear a lot of V-necks. So there's that, and then I always wear my hair to the side, so like the little hair thing isn't like it's kind of representing that. And then the ears are they're not as big, but I have bigger ears. So these are the things that represent me, which and the rest of it my legs and arms are obviously not sticks, but yeah, that's just a little inside little Easter egg into that if you've been following the comic for a while and you listen to this thing. Um, so I haven't done one of these in a while, which I feel like I say every time, and I felt usually I do this when I feel an urge because there's things going on in my life that I want to talk about, and I don't have any therapist to go to and talk to, which I'm currently looking into just because I think it's nice to have someone to talk to. And I think I've been kind of like not looking for one. And I'm in this mastermind group with other entrepreneurs, and there it's a group of like photographers, web developers, marketers, and we each get 15 minutes to talk about just our wins, our challenges, things we're stuck on. And I was talking about how I just feel not very creative lately, and I don't have this drive to like grow my business. I took a pause on my punk podcast, which is called This Was the Scene, just because I felt a little like creatively stuck, and I've been doing that one for 5 years, and it was doing really well. I mean, financially, it wasn't, so I think that might be part of it, that which kind of sucks when you're attaching like your creativity to money, but at the same time, it definitely is a motivator to keep it going. And I think sometimes it could be a demotivator when it's purely about money and you're stuck there. So I don't know what the balance is, but I just decided to take a break. I'm not sure when I'm going to start it up again. And then I have an animation company called Drive 80, drive80.com. You want to check it out, an explainer video. And I've been doing that for almost over 12 years, and I've always just had a back and forth with it because I like working for myself, and the reason that I have the business is to generate my own income and not have a boss and not have to work for anybody. And that seems to be the driving force. Uh, but I don't know. I think you just outgrow things, and I always just am back and forth. And when it's booming, then I'm just head down and getting things done. But when I look up, I'm not taking it anywhere. And this kind of brings all of this comes around to the topic, which I call this thing gut stuff, which obviously was a play on words. And I've been having gut issues for like 3 years since earliest I can remember. I believe is around September 2020. I think it's like around then where I started just feeling a little tightness in my stomach. And since then, the way this works is I wake up every day and my stomach is just tight. It's really tight. And as the day progresses, there's certain foods I eat and I just get massively bloated. I just feel like there's air in my stomach like at all times. But it also feels like I've done like 1,000 sit-ups the night before. And it's hindering. And if I really am honest with myself and I look at my diet for the last 3 years, I pretty much go out 6 days a week. It's like a single guy, live in a city, have no responsibility, work for myself, have no, family, meaning like I have no kids, I have no wife, I have no like steady, serious girlfriend. I don't live with anybody. And there's a freedom to that, but the freedom is I get to go do whatever the fuck I want. And I think the choices that I make are because I work by myself all day. Like even now, I'm sitting in my living room in my apartment and it's raining out and it's gloomy and it's quiet in a building that's not very loud. So that's a plus. But it's very isolating. And when I've been kind of researching this gut stuff lately, I've done a lot of things where I've done like elimination diet and I've tried like taking pills and tried to like kind of stop drinking for a while. And it's just not really working. So someone recommended this app recently, and I always forget the name of this fucking thing. I have to find, I have to get my phone, but it's an app that it's hypnosis because they say IBS. A big cause of it is it's mental. What's the name of this fucking thing? Nerva. That's the name of it. Nerva. So I posted on Facebook this week is like, hey, has anyone had any gut issues? I'd like to start really attacking this because my goal for this year is to like get rid of this thing because it's just driving me crazy and it's hindering and it's like just fucking with my mind and it's just a weight on my shoulders at all times. And so I downloaded this app and it's interesting because before this I was having coffee with a buddy of mine out in Durham. His name's Ryan Carey, and he has this company called Better On, where he teaches you to be better on camera. So if you're looking to do that, you can be remote. It's really good. Helps you with public speaking and stuff. So a little plug, a little free plug for Ryan. And I'm talking to him, and he mentioned he has a client who I didn't realize was a client of mine. I did a logo animation for her. He said to reach out to her because she beat her IBS 20 years ago, and she like focuses on therapy. It's like she's focusing on the mind because that's the big key component to this whole thing. From everyone has their theories on stuff, and because I've tried the elimination diet, which I think I could have done it for a little bit longer, and I think like the drinking thing I could have cut out for a little bit longer to really see results. But I reached out to her, and she is really busy, and her hourly is it works for what she does. But I just wanted to see if she's ever heard of what I have because when I've talked to anybody else, like I've gotten a colonoscopy, I've gotten an endoscopy, I I've gotten blood work done to see how my body is, and it's like all fine. So that to me now is thinking, okay, maybe I'll try the mindset or the focus on my brain because I've definitely gone through a lot of shit since 2016 until now, or 2014 until now. And I think it might have just all kind of added up mentally without me expressing any of it. And so, but anytime I talk to a specialist, they're like, we don't know. It just sounds like this. There's no reason. And they're like, it could be IBS, it could be gastritis, it could be some made up fucking word because we don't really know what this is. But we'll put you on medication and we'll stick a camera down your throat and up your ass to see if you've got like physical problems. And there's really no solution, and it's so frustrating because it's like, what is it, this mystery thing? Because if you break your leg, you see it clearly in an um, X-ray, and it's clearly broken. So you put it in a cast, and you wait X amount of weeks, and it heals. With shit like this, they just can't diagnose it. And so when she gave me her hourly, she's like, "Well, I have these online programs." I'm like, "I don't want to do any fucking online programs that I don't know if it works." So I posted on Facebook asking if anyone has had gut issues, and my one friend, she replied and she said, "Yeah, check out this app." So I downloaded the app, and it's 7 days free, but then it's $80 every 3 months, which I like because it just shows commitment. So I was like, "Fuck it, if I'm gonna spend $80, and they say it takes 4 to 6 weeks for this thing to really start to show results, depending on where you're at." I was like, I'm willing to invest $80 if the rest of my life I don't have this issue. Like to me, that's an investment. It's like if a book is $45, people are like, what the fuck? It's like, well, the investment is what are you going to get out of that and take with you for the rest of your life? It's like, are you going to have full enjoyment because it's a fiction book? Are you going to get over a hump? And so $45, it's like, is it really that much money in the long run? Like that's how I think about things. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll take the leap. And today is day 9. What you do is it's every day. It's like a 15-minute. It's almost like a meditation, but it's also a hypnosis. But you don't, it's not like you get up and walk like a chicken or and shit like that. But you read the science behind it. They have an article, and there's usually a 3 to 4 minute read. And then the second part is you listen to this 15-minute audio, and it starts off, and the woman like it's this British woman's voice, and it's like speaking really slow, so it's like helps you calm down. And then she gives you kind of like a metaphor scenario of like you're in the woods and you're walking a path, and there's this branches and stuff in the way, and kind of it's I think she's talking about like your digestive system at some point. And it's referencing that, and it's like, oh, you clearly move branches to see how easy it is. So it's the whole theory behind it is the gut brain connection, and there's some point in your life it got disconnected. So this is helping that reconnect, which I find fascinating. And they say that, it takes 4 to 6 weeks before you see results. And it also, you know, according to them, has an 80% success rate, or 80% of the people who listen to it actually see a difference, and 20% don't. So I'm really hoping I'm not falling in that 20% thing. So again, I've done everything besides taking like a whatever. I've done like an X-ray of my stomach. I haven't done whatever this. I don't know, like a CT scan or something that would literally show you what's going on. They give you a clear picture of what your digestive system looks like, I believe. Like that's the only thing I haven't done, because I think that's thousands of dollars. We're almost at the point of just trying not to see if there is something. But when I'm talking to doctors, like they don't really sound concerned. Doesn't sound like it's anything serious that we can tell. So the hypnosis thing is interesting because like I said, yesterday was day 8, and I've been eating really well again. And I forgot to mention that part is years ago I got into paleo when I was doing CrossFit and shit like that, and I became really good at cooking, and I used to cook all the time. And I kind of lost sight of that over the last couple years when I moved to North Carolina after traveling, and I I just got in this routine of, well, fuck it, I'll go out, and then I go out and I drink, and then I get food and I bring it home and I eat at like 9 o'clock at night. So a lot of that I can understand plays into this. But this just started to just slowly develop, which is weird, and it's been sticking around for so long. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna clean up my diet. I'm gonna start cooking again. I'm gonna stop. I try to go gluten free when I can, even though I'm drinking IPAs, which I really need to cut out, and that's really working against me big time. So I clearly see all this shit. But the therapy thing is the hypnotherapy thing is interesting, because if it is mental, then part of it from the app's point is connecting your gut to your brain. And then that other woman that I talked to, she got rid of her IBS she did therapy for a year, every week for a year. And that got rid of a majority of her systems. And then she did other stuff after, which was diet. And yesterday's article in the app was IBS typically isn't caused by food, but then food becomes an irritant after. Again, this is based on me just trusting that this app knows what it's talking about, because it's based on this woman who was a doctor and she's worked on this for years, and the science and blah 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 blah. So I just am throwing, suspending disbelief, or just believing. And so if that's the case, it's interesting, because that makes me think that the root cause of it is mental, or definitely part of it. And then the food thing obviously is a trigger, because there's certain foods I eat where I just like feel like my stomach is fucked afterwards. And it got me thinking last night. Like I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and I went through a laundry list. I'm like, okay, like I'm like last night I kind of had a breakdown. I got really upset, and I was just like, am I ever gonna get rid of this? I'm just like sitting by myself, and I was watching TV. I was watching Shrinking on Apple, and there wasn't even like a sad part, and I just started like losing it. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, fuck it, just let it go. Like there's a reason why this is happening. I think shit's getting unlocked in my brain maybe after a week of doing this hypnotherapy thing. And like maybe this is a release that I need to help. It's part of the process. And I was just like, am I ever gonna fucking beat this? I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. I'm not gonna do anything drastic, but this is really affecting me. And this morning I got up at 6:30, And I'm just sitting there. I was like, all right, let me go through the list of what could be things that I need to uncover because I'm pretty open. I mean, Christ, I have a podcast where I talk about my own shit and really transparent and like really vulnerable. And I was like, well, why would talking to a therapist help me? And maybe talking about these things, like, well, what would I need to talk about? I was like, well, and I've talked this before in the podcast many times, but it's like, okay, my dad died suddenly in 2013 because he had colon cancer. It's like, okay, there's obviously stomach issues in the family. My mom also has pancreatic cancer right now and liver cancer, so there's gut things in my family, especially old other relatives have had stomach things. I'm like, okay, so this isn't new. This isn't new. All right, so dad dies. 3 months later, my wife at the time leaves me for a friend. So okay, there's that, and I haven't really, and I have addressed that, and I've talked to this again thousands of times where I went to see her and the guy she left me for 2 years later, and I forgave them, so that helps really alleviate that stuff. And I was like, okay, what else? Well, I also moved away from my friends and family, or my close friends in New Jersey. So I don't, and I used to love hanging out with all these people. So I'm like, I moved away from them. I live in an apartment. I like isolate myself. I don't work for anyone else. I don't want to work for anyone else. So it kind of, it's like, what's the reason for that? Is there this fear of community or a team that I need so it's like I'm by myself and I'm pushing myself away from those things. So I feel loneliness there, but I also go out and I have friends and I meet with them. But I'll sometimes if I go out, I just go by myself and sit in a crowd because I want to feel the energy of people, but I don't want to talk to anybody. So I'm like, okay, what's that about? Um, what else did I think about? Like relationship wise, that's just I. It's always nothing's like concrete. I haven't had a real concrete relationship since I got divorced, where it was the two of us. There was no questions about what we were. We were just our thing. We were always together. We were a unit. And then after 6 years, obviously it went away. So there's that. Maybe there's definitely a fear of that happening again. So it's like, okay, let's look at the buckets. Career wise, work for myself, great, but not loving it. Okay, not feeling any like, what am I trying to say with that? Like, not feeling any I'm not creatively feeling like moving forward. I don't want to take it anywhere, right? I'm not driven with it. So okay, career, meh. Let's like 1 to 10. I'll give it like a 4. Then relationship wise, I'd give that like a 4, 3, because there's no concrete of what I like having anything. Then financially, the last couple of years were like good, but now it's a burden because it's on me to make that, and there's no guaranteed salary. So I wouldn't give that a real rating. I would say it's like there's definitely a stressfulness there. Family wise, the fact that I never see them is, I'd say, a 4. But I also live really far away, but I don't feel like moving to where any of them are because I don't like the weather, let's say, or like my mom lives in Florida and I fucking can't stand Florida. So, so there's that. Um, I mean, with like I had a dog years ago and he had seizures and he passed away like a couple years after. So like, okay, I'm not getting a pet right now. So it was like if I was going through it in my head, like shit, man, there's a lot of stuff right here where I'm like, what am I really stoked on? And I just couldn't think of anything, which is like, okay, like let me definitely find some therapist and like what if I have to pay out of pocket? It's like, well, let's say if I did 10 weeks solid to start and if I do have to pay out of pocket, usually they're like what, 165. So then I have to have like 1650, which I'm willing to invest that over time to if this is going to help me with my stomach, which is going to help me feel motivated. And that's just where I am. And I just thought, like, I felt like this build up to talk about this, even though I'm not getting any responses from I have a teddy bear across the room that's made of my dad's favorite shirt that my stepmom made for me and my sisters and herself of my dad's. Like he had different shirts and she found this woman to make teddy bears out of it. So I literally have had this bear with me since 2014, and he's always hanging around. So I'm staring across the room as he's sitting on a chair with mala beads, I think. They're like meditation beads on his neck. And I'm just like, not going to get a response from you, and I'm not going to get any feedback directly as I'm talking to a microphone. But I just felt that I need to put it out there. And like I was driving to get coffee today, and I was listening to a podcast with this guy. He worked for Wired years ago. I think his name's like Ken Kelly or something like that, and or Kevin Kelly or something. And he's just really fascinating to listen to. And he just had this really good advice on life. And like one thing he said is, if you had $1 billion, what would you do with it? And a lot of people gave answers where they could just seriously do it tomorrow. Like someone's like, oh, I'd travel Thailand. It's like you don't really need that much money to go do that. You need $1 billion. And then he was saying like the universe, some people have a theory that it's working against you, but there's another theory that it's working in the shadows for you, which I like that. And he was talking about traveling, which I've been thinking of. I just randomly thought about the other day, and people have been giving me a lot of really good advice on traveling Europe and how they would do it. I mean, it was definitely motivating to hear that. And he had one where he wrote, like, what if I had only 6 months to live? And he's like, that makes it really focused because you have literally no time, or that's the only time you have. So what would you do? Because you can't really waste any time. And then he said he created a clock for his computer that counts backwards. So he figured out the average age of his life for men born in the same year as he was, based it on shit he found online and like insurance companies, what they do and things like that. So he has a timer on his computer that ticks down days, and he said he's got like 5,082 days or something. And I was thinking, holy shit, like imagine having that in front of your face. Like, I don't know if that would be depressing. And granted, it's not guaranteed at all that that's how much time you'd have, because you could potentially have a day and you wouldn't even know it. But there's just something about that perspective of like, I mean, 5,000 sounds like a lot of days, but just to know there's a concrete set amount of time that you're visualizing in front of you, that's got to either motivate you or just fuck with you all the time. And I don't know. It's like someone who watches gore movies all the time. They think it's cool and fascinating, but there's got to be something that's going on in the back of their head where that's just getting kind of fucked, where it's just desensitizing them, or it's just not okay to have. And so maybe thinking about when you're going to die is, I think the freedom of this whole life is that you kind of live in the unknown, but we also I think a lot of us, or I don't think we can generalize, but people waste that time. People out there do waste that time, and I kind of go back and forth on that. Like, am I doing everything I should do, or should I give myself a break and just live and not have these these grandiose goals that I need to accomplish? Because I've tried to accomplish a ton of big things in my life and it hasn't come to fruition. So I think that's a part of me that goes along with the why, why do I care, or like what's the point kind of thing. I'm not like, again, I'm not going to go jump off a fucking building or anything, but there is this like and then there was another thing he said where like if angels or the dead were looking at us and thinking of how much we take for granted, where they're thinking, man, if I could feel again and had the sense of feeling, I would take a warm bath, or I would eat a really juicy peach or something. That also resonated with me too. And like I can sit here and say these things resonate with me, and it's not like I ran outside and took a hot bath or anything, but it just makes me think of, I don't know, like how am I really spending my time here? And I mean, to go back to the gut thing, I think a lot of the stuff plays into that potentially. If there really is, I mean, there scientifically is a connection between the brain and the gut from years of listings. I've had a client who has a company built on this. And if the way that you think, or there's shit that you've gone through in your life and you haven't really addressed, or like I was saying before, the things I was giving us, a number between 1 and 10, if I'm not thinking all that's a 10, but I might be like, but that's no problem. But literally underlying the underlying the subconscious is sitting with that. So there's this weight that's potentially created for me, or of this reason of not moving forward, to be like, well, if I'm giving everything a 4, then why am I not trying to make that closer to a 10? And is there a reason for that? So that goes back to the whole therapy thing. Like, I'd like to talk to someone, and I feel like it's so hard to find a good therapist, but I'd love to find someone who literally just says different things that just click and makes me go, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, or that unlocked this thing. And I'll do another episode on this, but about a month, I think now it's almost 2 months ago, I went and did psilocybin therapy, and I talked about it on my friend's podcast, and it was fucking wild. And I was kind of hoping that was going to be the silver bullet to really fix things, and it definitely got me over being anxious in certain things, but I think you have to do it. I think one time isn't enough. I think you got to do it multiple times. So I've been to microdosing too, because I think there's therapy. They say like ayahuasca or psilocybin therapy or ketamine therapy is like 10 years of therapy in one session. And I definitely felt that when I did the psilocybin. I mean, it was like 5 hours and I did 5.7 grams and it was fucking crazy. And again, I'll definitely do an episode where I talk about that, even though I have it out there on the internet, but I'm pretty sure that not everyone listens to that. I'm, out of the handful of people that listen to this thing. But so yeah, I'm on this journey to figure out what the fuck is up with my stomach and how to fix it. And it's really frustrating to not have any answers and not have someone say, you have to do this for this amount of time. It's guaranteed to work. It's like this fucking guessing game. And then the good thing is that it got me cooking again, which can only have positive repercussions. And I'm drinking a lot more water. I'm drinking like a gallon of water a day. So I feel more clear headed and like less brain fog and things like that. So I could see a difference. And when I eat shitty, which I did this weekend, I noticeably the next day I felt depressed. I felt weighted down. My stomach felt like a fucking disaster. So I'm almost treating this like a science experiment where I'm collecting data and saying, all right, I'm having more of an understanding of myself. But I really just wish this shit would go away. Actually, now that I even think about it, it's kind of like instead of being what would you do with what would you do with your life with $1 billion? It's like I think I should do a little practice and say, what would I do if my stomach felt better again? I think that's way more tangible because they don't give a shit to have $1 billion, but I really give a fuck to have my stomach not feel so shitty anymore. So if you are anyone who's dealt with this before and has had the same symptoms where you just constantly had a tight stomach and it would just certain foods you'd eat would really just give you like a massive like balloon gut. And if you've gotten over it and had success, like definitely reach out. Just go on my Instagram, send me a message at your dailyBred, or you can email me at mike@drive80.com. That's my business email, drive80.com. I'm trying everything right now, and even talking about this, like A, it gives me a topic to talk about, but B, it helps me get this off like out of my head and just out there where it's not stuck in my head. Maybe that's not helping me. But I think the big thing would be to find a therapist and talk to them, and hopefully they have some tricks up their sleeve that work, or they specifically are like, their specialty is gut focus through therapy. So if anyone out there has any information, like I'm just doing this because I feel the more I keep this in my head, the more I'm not going to get anywhere. So the more I talk about it and write about it and tell friends about it, it's going to lead me more in a direction. By even just putting that Facebook post, it led me to that app that I was talking about, the Nerva app. Let me make sure I got that right again. Yeah, Nerva, which I actually have to do after this, after I'm done recording. But yeah, so again, feel free to reach out via information. And that's it. So go, and if you have no gut problems, just be fucking thankful and just be understanding of someone you know has gut problems because it fucking blows. Okay, goodbye.